Hey guys, Gwinnett here. Today I'm going to be looking at the power of White Weenie in Standard Pauper. Going to be illustrating this match how White Weenie often has the power. Even though it tends to be a more aggressive build when it's up against other aggro decks, it actually has the versatility, almost like a mid-range deck, to be able to be a little more controlling than the deck it's up against and win that way. In this particular match, this is in the middle of MPDC. Actually, I think it's round one in the most recent Monday Pauper Deck Challenge. And my opponent is playing a Boros build. He did have to mold a 5, and he dropped him out in turn 1. This is the opener that I kept. So let's get to it. So here, I'm going to go ahead and play a Plains, and then follow that up with a Selfless Cathar. On my opponent's turn, he is going to Lightning Strike the Selfless Cathar. This is actually a fairly good card for this particular matchup, or I'm sorry, for this particular deck, simply because the ability to pump your 1/1 tokens is a really nice way to sidestep removal. Back on my turn, I'm going to go ahead and drop the Radiant Fountain. This again has been a really great card since it came into the set in Magic 2015, just because the ability, particularly in a monocolored deck, to be able to gain 2 life when it comes into play is just really, really nice, really strong. And then using that, I'll go ahead and cast my second Selfless Cathar. On his turn 3, my opponent plays out a Viashino First Blade, a very Boros card. Swing in here. I'll just go ahead and take the damage, dropping me to 18. On my turn 3, going to go ahead and play out this Court Street Denizen here. This has been a card I've been bringing in out of the sideboard against certain matchups. In this particular case, it's really here just to allow me to have some more creatures in play, something a little bit bigger to be able to fight back against his creatures, and certainly the ability to tap down defending creatures on my turn could certainly be the difference in a race situation between winning and losing. And obviously swing in here with the Cathar and pass the turn back. Opponent is going to go ahead and swing in again with the Viashino. Probably has a trick here, but if so, I'm happy to just go ahead and force that out of his hand. He does not, and follows it up with both a Loyal Pegasus and a Keening Apparition. This again is one of the reasons why White Weenie is so popular right now, or I'm sorry, why White is so popular right now. This card basically has 2 modes, if you will. One mode is to destroy target enchantment, and another mode is to have a 2/2 for 2 in white, and the best thing is you can choose when to switch it into the other mode. So very, very strong card. So draw into yet a second Sungrace Pegasus, but here, since I'm still at 3 mana, just going to go ahead and play out the other Court Street Denizen. Obviously no attacks here. Back on my opponent's turn, he plays another Loyal Pegasus and just passes. Doesn't want to trade the Keening Apparition in here simply because to do so, it removes his ability to get rid of my enchantments, which I have several of, so that's a good play by him. I'm here going to go ahead and play the Syndicate Tithes, and that allows me to tap down his Keening Apparition. And here, actually go ahead and attack in with Selfless Cathar. At this point, I'm happy to trade it for one of his Loyal Pegasi, if that's what he chooses to do. But he does not. Instead, just takes the 1 damage. So on my opponent's turn, he goes ahead and swings in with the Pegasi, which I cannot block at this point, dropping me to 14, and then follows that up with the Wojak Halberders. My turn, finally find a 4th land here, and that's going to go ahead and let me cast Triplicate Spirits here, as well as be able to trigger the Extort using the Syndicate Tithes. So bringing me up to 15, and interestingly enough, allowing me to tap down all of his creatures, although in this case it doesn't really matter since I don't have anything to attack with anyway. Back on my opponent's turn, he has a second Viashino First Blade here, which he'll go ahead and swing in with. Actually going to swing in with the whole team, it looks like. Now, decided to keep one of the Loyal Pegasi back. Does trigger First Strike on the Wojak, which means I won't be able to profitably block it. But the ability to block the Pegasi here and presumably chump with the Viashino. No, just going to go ahead and take the Viashino damage. Interesting. I probably, looking back, probably should have chumped there, but I could suppose an argument could be made either way there. So draw into another Plains here. Going to go ahead and run out the Sungrace Pegasus, gain another life through Extort. It also allows me to tap down his creature, and looking back, probably he needed to not just leave this back by itself, simply because it enables, it obviously now can't block, and I can swing in with whatever I want. But in this case I don't, and just want to keep as many blockers back as I can given the life total swing. He's again swinging him with everything to activate this first strike, so definitely not going to block that. But I do get to block the Loyal Pegasus here, as well as trade with the first blade. He does have a trick here to go ahead and kill the second Court Street Denizen, but that's fine. Happy to make him spin the trick, leaving me at 6 life, and doesn't have a follow-up play. Draw into a second Ethereal Armor, which is really nice. I'll go ahead and suit up the Sungrace Pegasus here, and my opponent is out of cards, so I don't have to worry about a Lightning Strike or anything like that, which will let me gain some life on that, and I'll put the other one on one of the tokens as well, making him a 3/3 flyer. And here, just swinging with the Pegasus, nice little life swing there. He goes ahead and gets rid of the Ethereal Armor on it right now to basically keep the life gain from getting out of hand. But again, I'm fine with that. Gain the 1 point of life back, dropping him to 13, bringing me up to 9, pass the turn back. On his turn, my opponent decides not to attack, and in fact just passes the turn back. I draw Shieldmate here, which I'm going to go ahead and use its bestow ability to bestow it onto the Sungrace Pegasus, do the extort, and now I've got the ability to gain 2 life a turn, and basically puts this at a burn range. I mean, there are a few burn spells, but typically with 4 toughness is a pretty important number there. Now game's tied at 11. My opponent once again just has to pass the turn back, and at this point I've got a pretty commanding spot. Play yet another Sungrace Pegasus. Use the extort. Maybe we'll keep swinging here. Just with the Pegasus, just trying to make sure I keep enough blockers back that if my opponent has some haste creatures, that I'm not going to fall too far behind. He does have a Skirmisher here. Go ahead and pump up his Halberders, but can't even swing in with it since he doesn't have the ability to attack. And find yet another Pegasus, but here I don't even need it. Just go ahead and sacrifice the Loyal Cathar, and gives me 5 damage. No, it gives me total of, it gives me 9 damage in the air, which is pretty much game unless my opponent has a removal spell. And that is how the game ended. At this point, my opponent went ahead and conceded. So, I can see White Weenie definitely has the ability here to hopefully hold on against a more aggressive deck. The ability to gain the life gain from the Syndicate Tides, as well as the Sungrace Pegasi and the Radiant Fountain, definitely made a big difference in that particular game. I did go ahead and ended up winning this match 2-0. So for the next match, I'll be back in just a minute. I'm going to show you how this deck performed against the other far end of the spectrum, a very, very controlling deck. So I'll be back with that in just a minute.